Hello CS111 students, and welcome to this video lesson. This is Professor Robert Solis, and I'm ready to show you something really cool that you're going to be working on in the Blackout game. Now, you've already worked on this, but this will be the first time that you're going to be working on it with an array approach. But specifically what I want to do is I want to show you how to debug the program. Okay, so you know that if the user, say for example, clicks the reset button, that's going to take me to the code area. In the code area, you see that I'm going to be stepping through or calling the game setup function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a break right here. Again, you've done this before, but I just want to remind you of the various tools that you're going to be using to make sure you understand how the program flows. All right, so that means that when I click the reset button, we're going to stop time and see what's going on at this point. Well, let me go ahead and run the program, and when it runs, it should load in a random fashion, and there it is. Let's say that I don't like this pattern and I want to try a different pattern. Okay, so I'm going to click reset. So I click reset, and now notice what happens. I have frozen the program in such a way as that until I press one of these buttons, whether it's step into, step over, step out, it's just going to stay here. Right? Well, let me step into and figure out what's going on. And that's what I would encourage you to do. By the way, if you don't see these debugging tools, you could just, on this menu area, you could just simply right click and make sure that debug is checked. And with debug checked, then you'll see these tools. All right, so I said I wanted to step into it. So I'm going to click step into, and now notice that I went inside of the game setup function. All right, well, inside of the game function, or the game setup function, you could see here that I'm got lower bound set to 0, upper bound set to 1, random number generator is going to be generated, so forth and so on. Now, I may not necessarily want to step into the refined aspects of, like, say, for example, a random number generator. So now I'm going to click on this guy over here, which is just step over. So if I click on step over, okay, we're going to set the lower bound to 0. A step over. Now, if I just hover on top of lower bound, yep, we set it to 0. Okay, upper bound, we're going to set that to 1. So I step over, hover on top to see what it is. Sorry, on top of upper bound, there it is, and that's equal to 1. Perfect. Okay, now generate a random number. And again, we've gone through this random number generator. Let's see what random number generator it creates. Now, right now, it's saying null. In other words, I don't have a random number generator, but after I execute this line of code, then I will have it. So I'll simply step over, I'll hover on top of here, and it looks like the random number generator now generates a random number. Okay, so then I'll say, okay, for row is equal to 0, as long as row is less than row size, which you can see over here, the row size, that's going to be a certain value, namely 5. And we're going to keep on incrementing, and then we're going to go through all the columns. So we're going through every single row, every single column, and basically shuffling. And I'm shuffling a number of times to make it so that the puzzle is randomly shuffled. If I just shuffle it once, that's not sufficient. So maybe I should do it numerous times. Okay, so I don't want to go into here. I'll leave that up to you if you really want to troubleshoot and step through it step by step. But one of the things I want to do is to execute the code after the for statement. And so you'll notice that little teeny tiny green arrow with the vertical line. What this means is run to here and stop. So if I run to here and stop, that means it went through all of this code. So it went outer for loop, inner for loop, outer for loop, inner for loop, outer for loop, inner for loop. And it did that a number of times. Finally, we finished with that for statement. Moves is going to be set to 0. And then the LBL moves label is going to be set to whatever the moves is set to. Well, as you can see here, it's 0. Because we just set it to 0, or we're about to set it to 0 again. So if I step over, you can see it's going to be set to 0. Make sure that the label has 0. Okay, and then if I want to jump out, as I'm done investigating, so I can go ahead and just click on step out. And then over here, this was the call. So I'm just going to go ahead and click continue if I want to continue from here and not troubleshoot. Now notice that the puzzle has been randomized. Okay, so what will happen is there are going to be points of your program where you're going to wonder, why is it doing that? Why is it doing this? So put a break. I want to stop the program here. I want to stop the program here. I want to stop the program here. put a break, and then investigate it to find out what's happening step by step. So let me take all the breaks off. And now that you've understood how it works because you've been debugging the program, now if I go ahead and remove all the breaks, and now notice what happens if I reset, 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 so forth and so on, you could see here that it's resetting. And then what I want to do is I want to pick something easy. Okay, here's an easy one right here. I want to test if this game is going to stop if I click right here. If I click right here, this one turns to white, 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 white. They're all going to be white. I've solved the problem. Okay, so I click over here. They're all white. It took me one move. And notice what happens if I click, 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 click on all 9 buttons. Nothing happens because I won. The only way to play a new game is to click reset. So I click reset, and then all of a sudden now I get a new option. So I'll just go ahead and click on this guy, click on this guy, click on this guy. That's not going to work because if I click on this, maybe I spoke too early. So let's see what happens if I go to red. Okay, this is going to work. Check this out. So it's going to take me a total of 9 moves. If I click on this guy, everything will be red because every single column and every single row based on the clicking of this button will turn to red. Let's see what happens. So I click it. Wow, everything is red. Now, is the game working? Namely, can you continue playing? The answer should be no. So let's see what happens. Click, click, click. Very good. It looks like the program does not continue. The only way to continue the program is to click on the reset button. I click on the reset button, it randomizes the puzzle, and it sets the moves to 0 so that you could play again and again and again. So the most important thing to walk away from in terms of this video is the usage of debugging tools. And debugging tools, which just means you're placing that red dot to say stop time at this program line. You run your program, and sure enough, what ends up happening when I click reset? I clicked reset, it stops time. Now I can investigate what's going on, and that's what you want to master as a computer science. And that is it. So this is Professor Robert Solis. I hope that this video lesson was helpful. Have a good day. See you next time.